Big decision now is, are you are you going to be calling out a hitman at any point, or are we going to the random draw, Karl?
Well, I've already played a hitman and I won no money, so I think we'll draw.
That seems like a fair enough assumption. Okay, so computer, when you are ready, let's find out Karl's next opponent. It could be anyone left in the draw. Here it is. Come on down, Shaun Storry.
I just think it could have been better, it could have been worse. I just think when you'd go into that random draw and you've got Tom Cousins in there, you've got Phil Harrison in there, you've got Jack Whelan in there, you've got John McAllister, Craig Waddingham, you've got guys that are going so well at the moment. Not that Shaun Storry's going badly, and yes, he's been the number 2, he's been a Pro Series champion. I just think, yeah, it could have been, it could have been worse, but equally, it could have been better as well.
Yeah, I mean, based purely on form, I guess that's fair. Based on heritage, Shaun's been right at the top of the game, but he's maybe not quite hit those heights lately. He's had some good performances, though. He won his group in the Champions League the other week, looked pretty steady there, so some happy memories out in this arena.
Yeah, agreed. It's certainly a very tough match to call. If this was a Pro Series match, we'd be sort of going, how do you pick this one? It's a real, it's who gets the chances, who plays well, but you've got to throw into the mix that Karl Sutton's played 2 matches out there, will be warmed up, although didn't play too much actual open attacking pool in the last match, of course, but he's out there, he's comfortable, he's confident, but that's the advantage for Karl. The disadvantage is that the pressure's on him because he's one away from doing what no one else but Callum Singleton's been able to do today, and get away from the arena and get on the hot seat.
Yeah, I mean, that's the trade-off, isn't it, for Karl, as the added pressure, because he's actually really got something to lose now. If he just wins this match, then that really is a good day's work for him. Shaun kind of less to lose, but obviously not warmed up, so he's starting from scratch. He's got to win 3 in a row if he wants to get through to tomorrow. I think the fact that Karl quite likes the style of play of the last one, it's not going to have knocked him out of his rhythm. Some players would just be really frustrated to get involved in that game. But you heard from Karl's interview, he enjoys a tactical game where one can be constructed.
Yeah, and there was some tongue-in-cheek in what he was saying regarding the rule set, and probably would have get a slap on the wrist from Lee Kendall, the CEO, about it. But Karl understands that this is the future of the game, but he also understands that he has a bigger advantage if we were still playing the world rules that we were with for the past 30 years or so. So it's kind of one of those that he understands, but also he knows as personally it's better the other way around for him.
Plus also, of course, like having a good tactical understanding and a good tactical game is useful in these rules. It's not as useful as it was, but we've seen over the last few years of Ultimate Pool, people have picked up some clever tactical nuances and are playing shots that maybe they weren't right at the beginning.
Yeah, and let's be honest, let's give Karl Sutton the credit that he came to the table early in that frame with a game plan to take what probably looked like slightly the worst colour set there in terms of they were both terrible, but it's highly likely if Karl Sutton wins this match, we won't see him till tomorrow. It's highly unlikely. 8 ball, oh wow, that was racing in. It would be very Shaun Storry to have an 8-ball golden break in the very first frame of the shootout. He probably has more golden breaks than any other player on the tour.
Yeah, it's a good tournament to do it in as well, because it counts for a lot more when the races are this short.
But he has got himself a very good layout here. Chance to get into this match and see how he's playing. Can he get going from cold?
Yeah, I mean, for Shaun, it's not a great draw either, in the sense that I guess you'd like to play somebody, maybe get the random draw against someone who's not on the table and maybe ideally a lower ranked player. But equally, he's been at the venue all day. He's watched 9 games of pool before this. I don't think he'd be too sorry to get out there and get going.
Yeah, and it's one of those, I think, for Shaun, he was probably feeling like he's not likely to get picked out early unless it's a random draw that brings him out. So you kind of feel a little bit hard done by, because you think, going by, and he kind of referenced it when he came out, going by last year's kind of format, he was probably more likely to be left alone like he was last year. He didn't play too early last year, as we see a mistake from him. Big mistake from him. But he's got to deal with that and just get out there and try and find 3 games here and get himself into the hot seat.
A bit unlucky with the in off. It took an odd turn off the yellow. Quite a big difference, that. Ball in hand versus having to play from near that middle pocket gives Karl more routes over to the problem ball on the right hand side.
Poor visit to the table though, really, for Shaun. That was a good layout, and sort of layout I was expecting Shaun, even coming into this cold, to mop up with, fairly minimum fuss out there.
Karl's weighing up the tactical options. He's going to get a good cue ball if he plays this. Needs to get the white tied up.
Yeah, played that well. Played that really well. Okay, he wasn't 100% certain he was going to get the snooker on the yellow to the left. He knew he was blocking the yellows at the top of the table, but he knew he was going to send it far enough that he wasn't going to leave it on, and he's actually got the snooker. So very, very good shot.
Yeah, and again, it's a case of playing the right shot. Sometimes there's a bit of pressure when you turn up to the table with ball in hand. People think, well, you should be able to clear up from that kind of spot. It just shows you don't have to go for it.
Oh, very nearly.
Not a terrible outcome. He's at least obstructed things a bit. I mean, anything other than potting a ball probably wasn't going to be a great outcome with the position of the Reds.
Yeah, we'll slow down Karl, but just a little bit. It's not the biggest challenge for him to play the developing shot. And he's going to be able to go for it straight away here. We might play it off the red. I was thinking to go bottom right and play the cannon on the yellow, but I like this option better. It's much more controlled. It is more controlled if you make it. Just got too much of the red on the way through. No damage done though.
Yeah, the red wasn't in a perfect spot for that. It ideally needs to clip it quite thin. It's not expected to make it though.
Can Shaun pot this and fire into his problem off the top cushion with lots of side? No, he played position, but has overdone it.
A couple of rolls shorter, and that would have been an exceptional positional shot. Wasn't a lot of room to play with. It's quite an ask, because there was a very small area where he'd have been in good shape to pot the yellow and develop the other one. Like you, I thought it was a reasonable target to try and fire into. It would have been trusting to luck, but
yeah, I suppose firing into it was chancing to luck, but the luck was not in his side because you're knocking the yellows towards the reds, and popping them open wasn't as likely as leaving a major problem. So if he could have landed plumb on the top one, he could have then dealt with the bottom one. So I understand why he did it that way, but you're asking for a very high tariff shot to land.
he's played a clever shot though, given where he was. That's as good as he could really do.
What would the mood of the other players right now in the crowd? I think majority of them will want a Shaun Storry victory here. They don't want to go to a random draw for 2 players. You'd think they'd like to have Shaun picking, and they probably think Shaun will go the way of Karl and Jack and probably go low end and work up.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I think it really depends who in the crowd you ask. I think for the lower ranked players, there's a couple of qualifiers who haven't been troubled and haven't really been referenced by anybody. They'd love a Shaun Storry victory. They'd love a Karl Sutton victory, because then it goes to a random draw and anything could happen. The top pros are probably thinking Shaun gets in and then starts working his way up the list. That just tidies up the draw, keeps them out of trouble for a while.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, actually, depending on it makes a difference where you are in the pecking order, if you like.
I mean, everyone's good players, but there's a couple of qualifiers, Jaden Bellingham, Scott Yardley, we've seen nothing of so far. I mean, they played super well to qualify, so in a sense they're the ones that are coming in with the form, but still they'll be very happy not to have had a game so far.
That's
that's
very
a good
good
shot.
And it was a poor shot from Karl Sutton. He was trying to play the loss of turn and just got it all wrong. To leave Shaun this chance was poor from Karl's perspective, and And it's taken a good shot there from Shaun to be clever to get onto this yellow as nicely as he has, but it's still very tough.
Oh,
Promise you.
What
Promise
a
you it
great
was tough.
shot.
What a shot that is. That's fabulous from Shaun Storry.
Well, and the pace as well, because he can't afford to hit it too hard because it's so thin, the cue ball's tracking up and down the table, so had to take a bit of pace off. Oh, very, very good finish from Shaun.
Life changes. You know, he had a child for the first time and completely changed his life, so his practice was completely compromised, and I think this year he's come in and he's reset. He's obviously got used to everything, and he's now finding the time, and he's back on the practice table. And I think we may not have seen the massive upturn in results yet, but we've certainly seen an upturn in performance.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And of course he was in a position at the end of the first year where he kind of exceeded everyone's expectations, including his own, in finishing number 2. It's a bit of a cliche, but there kind of was only one direction he could go from there. It was going to be very hard to maintain that level. It's all about enjoying the game as well. He was obviously loving that first year because it was having such good results, and practice must have seemed easy. When you start going the other way, you've then got to force yourself maybe to play so much. I mean, it's still a great result, of course, being in the top 16. That tells a story anyway. But when you've been at number 2, anything's down from there.
Yeah, and he was one match away from being the number 1 as well. Lost out to Gareth Potts in a Pro Series final. If he wins that match, he finishes the opening year as the number 1 player, which is quite incredible considering what Shane Thompson did. So winning 3 titles and losing in another final.
Yeah, I mean, every year it seems there's been different players, but I mean, it was the same last year. Tom Cousins was imperious, but actually Stevie Dempsey could still mathematically have caught him going into the last weekend.
Yeah, difference this last couple of years. They were playing for a lot more titles now, but I'm with you. It's what Stevie did was worthy of a number 1 ranking. Fortunately, what Tom did was quite ridiculous, and he's continued.
Yeah, I mean, this felt like it could have been the Tom Cousins show, but because of the way the draw's gone, he hasn't been called out. You could almost forget that he's playing in it at the moment.
Yeah, he'll probably turn up tomorrow maybe and have a few matches. I still think he's the favourite to win the tournament because he absolutely is the number 1 player.
Yeah, there was a point we were saying had Jack gone favourite the way he started. But I think the loss of his 3rd match, even though he's got that extra life back into it, he didn't seem quite as brimful of confidence when we were talking to him at the interval. And
he's also not sat in the hot seat. He doesn't have the security of not being able to be picked out until someone else wins 3. That's such an advantage.
Feels like we need to see some more bravado picks. We saw a few of those at the beginning, but people have got a bit more sensible the last few choices.
Yeah, maybe. Well, if Karl Sutton wins this match, Callum Singleton's back on the loose again. So maybe we need Callum to get drawn out, and who knows, maybe he can get us going again. He's absolutely primed to win. And they're very much in the same kind of area in the rankings and achievements with Ultimate Pool as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's been the great thing with Ultimate Pool. There's been so many different formats of tournaments. You've just got to embrace the one that's in front of you.
The dry break hurts. Really hurts because it's a good layout. If he goes reds, there's one bad red, but I think the yellow's much easier to solve. They look a little bit trickier, but they are easier. Poor shot though. I think he was playing trying to come a little bit further, but maybe he was just playing straight down the one to the bottom left and then use that to get to the right centre. In which case he's exactly where he's trying to be. Just I'm going off body language. Was he trying to get to the yellow to right centre there? Probably not the way he's playing that. Now just track the plant.
Yeah, it's not the most tempting of plants, but it's not in a terrible spot, and the fact that there's another ball down there makes the position easier when he does come to play it.
I think if you're right behind it, you'd be very upset to miss it though. He doesn't have to take it on. He could play yellow to bottom left and go into the problem, but I don't think you're going to make it, guarantee making it any easier.
No, and I mean, I think on this particular table, which incidentally was reclothed over the break between play, so these pockets should play big.
Yeah, it's actually a really interesting point we haven't really spoken about, as he does miss the plant, and he has, if the ready's left the cue ball next to passes, and I'm sure it does, then he's left the frame on as well. But the table was reclothed in the break. once again, ultimate pool showing they're not afraid to make decisions if they need to.
And typically, reclothing obviously makes the table play faster sometimes, but also does tend to make the pockets more generous because the cloth's still got a bit of a sheen on. Balls kind of slip in off the jaw in the way that they don't on an older cloth. Saw him play one great cut along the rail in the last frame. That was a slightly easier version that's gone begging this frame.
I would be distraught, absolutely distraught. It's one thing to break dry and feel like it's going to go against you, but when you get hand on the table and a chance as good as that, a player of Shaun's level will feel like he's got to take that out. It wasn't a sitter, but you expect him to make it.
Well, especially as he's come in based on Karl missing that plant. Good chance to make Karl feel bad about that. Now he's just invited him straight back to the table from an easier position. I've seen that the topmost of the yellows there didn't pass the other one down the rail, otherwise it seems like it would have been easier to play that one first. Still should be fine though. Gonna have to just play the one over the pocket and come back for the other one.
Not the best of shots, in all honesty. I don't think the first shot was that good, to be honest. It left it really awkward. I'm surprised by the way he's gone about these couple of shots, and now he's got a very awkward shot to play. I think you've got a choice but to get down and really execute a good shot here with the cue ball. And he's just got there. Yeah, I think he's just got there to make the thing cut, but getting on the 8 ball's now not absolutely guaranteed. Can he just drop it in and maybe cut it back? Oh, well, that's what he's playing for.
Those last few balls look a bit harder than it needed to be, and he's still got a missable 8 ball. Big shot this, difference between 3-1 and 2-all. 3-1 it is.
Yeah, and deep into the final 5. Players are left because that's when that hot seat then you no longer have the hot seat once we get to the final 5 players. I don't expect it to happen, but it wouldn't shock me either.
Well, especially as the talent pool gets a bit richer, once the lower ranked players are out, it's going to be less to choose between those remaining. So as you say, in races to 4, winning 3 in a row is going to be a tough ask.
First glance, these yellows look pretty simple, but the cue ball, the yellow near the cue ball is awkward because your first shot's taking you away from it, but you've got the one to left centre to sort of get you back there. And of course he's going to do it all the way through on the beeps. You really couldn't hope for too much better.
Yeah, everything's just kind of fallen quite nicely for Karl. I mean, of his own making, this has very much been a solid performance, but everything just seems to have happened at the right time for him. Shaun hasn't done a whole lot wrong. He made that one very good clearance. Just that missed ball in the last frame that he's going to dwell on if he does go on to lose this. This is where it seems a cruel format. Shaun sat around watching 9 games of pool before this one comes out, gets the single frame potentially. Could all be over.
Final 2 minutes coming up. I don't think we're going to have more than 4 shots in that time though. I felt like Karl's kind of just calmed everything down, quietened down the atmosphere out there. Obviously the previous match was very low key, which was very much to his liking, and he's been very much all business here other than one missed opportunity on the loss of turn side, and he's done everything that's asked of him, and I think he'll be thrilled with the way the time's gone, but also I think we might be in for, if Karl does complete victory here, going to the random draw, it might just inject a little bit of energy in the room depending on what comes out as well.
Yeah, I agree. It does feel a bit subdued. We're going into the evening session of the match now. Does feel like get a couple of players out there, maybe some big personalities happen to come out. I think Callum Singleton's call out really started off that chain of events that made for a very lively first part of the first session. Definitely time for a bit more of that tonight. So just this 8-ball to take his place on the hot seat.
Job done for Karl Sutton. Missed opportunities for Shaun Storry. Very big one there in the middle. And that's really hurt him. And his tournament is over.
Well, on that note, Karl, take your leave, mate, and get comfortable in that chair. Let's hear it for Karl Sutton, folks, who goes 3 in a row